New details of Jeffrey Epstein's death and the frantic aftermath revealed in records obtained by the AP. This is like the one conspiracy theory that I believe in, and it's barely even a conspiracy theory, that he didn't kill himself. Two weeks before ending his life, Jeffrey Epstein sat in the corner of his Manhattan jail cell with his hands over his ears, desperate to muffle the sound of a toilet that wouldn't stop running. The disgraced financier was under psychological observation at the time for a suicide attempt just days earlier that left his neck bruised and scraped. Yet even after a 31-hour stint in suicide watch, Epstein insisted he wasn't suicidal, telling a jail psychologist he had a wonderful life and would be crazy to end it. On August 10th, he was dead. Nearly 4 years later, the AP has obtained more than 4,000 pages of documents related to Epstein's death from the Federal Bureau of Prisons under the Freedom of Information Act. They included detailed psychological reconstruction of the events leading up to his suicide, as well as his health history, internal agency reports, emails, memos, and other records. Taken together, the documents the AP obtained Thursday provide the most complete accounting to date of Epstein's detention and death and its chaotic aftermath. The records help to dispel the many conspiracy theories surrounding Epstein's suicide. Ooh! Underscoring how fundamental failings at the Bureau of Prisons, including severe staffing shortages and employees cutting corners, contributed to Epstein's death. Ooh! Well, let's see. In one email, a prosecutor involved in Epstein's criminal case complained about a lack of information from the Bureau of Prisons in the critical hour after his death, writing that it was frankly unbelievable the agency was issuing public press releases before telling us basic info so we can relay it to his attorneys who can relay it to his family. The Bureau of Prisons immediately making press releases on his death rather than following standard procedure locally. That's supposed to make me less conspiratorial. In another email, a high-ranking Bureau of Prisons official made a spurious suggestion to the agency's director that news reporters must have been paying jail employees for information about Epstein's death because they were reporting details of the agency's failings, impugning the ethics of journalists and the agency's own workers. Wait, how is that impugning the ethics of journalists for them to pay employees for info? Isn't that literally what they're supposed to do? It's not illegal hold on, is it illegal for a journalist to pay for info? I guess that's a bribe, but is that an illegal bribe? Because, like, bribe is, like, the bad paying person. You can, like, good pay a person for a comment. I don't know. I actually don't know that bit. The documents also provide a fresh window into Epstein's behavior during his 36 days in jail, including his previously unreported attempt to connect by mail with another high-profile pedophile, Larry Nassar, the U.S. gymnastics team doctor convicted of sexually abusing scores of athletes. Wow, really? Okay. Sure. This guy is famous enough that I know him. Like, this guy's trial and arrest and everything were national news. He's like contacting, like, the grand poobah of pedophilia. Jesus. Epstein's letter to Nassar was found returned to sender in the jail's mailroom. Weeks after Epstein's death, it appeared he mailed it out and was returned back to him. Not sure if we should open it or we should hand it over to anyone. The letter itself was not included among the documents turned over to the AP. According to a memo from a unit manager, Epstein told a jail employee he was calling his mother, who'd been dead for 15 years at that point. So, wait, so far they're not telling me anything interesting. Where's the conspiracy theory dispelling? The memo detailed steps the Bureau of Prisons has taken to remedy lapses in Epstein's suicide exposed, including requiring supervisors to review surveillance video to ensure officers made required cell checks. The workers tasked with guarding Epstein the night he killed himself, Tova Noel and Michael Thomas, were charged with lying on prison records to make it seem as though they had made the required checks before Epstein was found lifeless. Epstein's cellmate did not return after a court hearing the day before, and prison officials failed to pair another prisoner with him, leaving him alone. Prosecutors alleged they were sitting at their desk just 15 feet from Epstein's cell, shopped online for furniture and motorcycles, Chad shit, and walked around the unit's common area instead of making required rounds every 30 minutes. During one 2-hour period, both appeared to have been asleep, according to their indictment. Noel and Thomas admitted to falsifying the log entries, but avoided prison time under a deal with federal prosecutors. Copies of some of those logs were included among the documents released Thursday, with the guards' signatures redacted. How is this making me less conspiratorial? So far, this is all info I'm pretty sure that we knew. How is this making me less, like, Yeah, he was like the most important prisoner in the world, and they just put him in a cell, and his cellmate was gone that day, and then the guys who were supposed to check on him didn't check the surveillance footage, and also they didn't do the rounds, and also they fell asleep, and also they weren't there, and then they lied about it, but then also they didn't go to jail for lying about it. Oh my god. Like, also the sun was in their eyes, also their controller wasn't working. Yeah, exactly. The more detail you add to this, the more it just makes it sound like a conspiracy, you know? Would anyone even care at this point, or if he did or didn't off itself? For me, whether or not he's the one who actually literally killed himself doesn't actually matter. For me, I think the case with Epstein's pretty obvious, okay? Epstein was an incredibly powerful sex trafficker who protected himself by implicating and drawing relationships with other powerful people, ensuring a mutually destructive relationship, where if Epstein was ever arrested and incarcerated, it would mean that he could take down a bunch of people with him, and nobody would want that. Obviously. So, this is kind of a double-edged sword, because it means that if Epstein actually ever does get arrested, it's pretty much guaranteed somebody's going to try to silence him. This isn't crazy conspiracy shit. This is literally stuff that happens in real life. It's happened in the past, and it happens now. Do I believe that his mental health was failing? Yeah, probably. I don't fucking know. But at the very least, like the bare minimum would be the idea that like he was fully aware of the fact that like the sword of Damocles was hanging over him. I don't think it's like a person went into the cell and shot him, you know. I think like it could have been as simple as somebody met with him and said like, you know, hey, like you're going to do this, or we're going to do these bad things that you don't want. Like we'll kill your family. So like it doesn't matter. Like there's literally a trillion things that could happen. But like the idea that all of these coincidences lined up in the most powerful like prisoner in the world like killed himself quietly, and oh, he just managed to not get to like testify. Yeah, I'm never going to believe that. I'm never going to believe that. At this point, I would say that the incompetence of the prison is so severe that it is more rational to assume they're lying than it is to sheepishly believe them, you know? In situations where it's not possible to just divinely know things that are like unknown, we can't like look back in time and scry the area. Like we're kind of relying on limited info here. You have to make a decision about what is more likely to believe. You know, what is more likely, what is more worthwhile to believe, what does the evidence point to? And I stand by my assessment. I'm not going to be moved on it unless new evidence comes out. But God, I have no idea. Oh yeah, the fact that the prison guards were like looking at furniture and motorcycles, the things that one might do after being offered a large amount of money. That's great. Yeah, the guards falsified their records. They were actually both looking at beachfront properties in Delaware, you know? It was, they looking at 4090s, yeah. That's so funny. Epstein later said he was upset about having to wear an orange jumpsuit provided to inmates in the special housing unit and complained about being treated like he was a bad guy despite being well-behaved behind bars. He requested a brown uniform for his near-daily visits with his lawyers. Initial health screening said he'd 10-plus female sexual partners within the previous 5 years. Medical records showed he was suffering from sleep apnea, constipation, hypertension, lower back pain, and pre-diabetes, and had been previously treated for chlamydia. That doesn't sound too out of line for like a grungy 66-year-old. Epstein made some attempts to adapt to his jailhouse surroundings. The records show he signed up for a kosher meal and told prison officials through his lawyer that he wanted permission to exercise outside. 2 days before he was found dead, Epstein bought $73.85 worth of items from the commissary, including an AM/FM radio and headphones. He had $566 left in his account when he died. Denied bail. Like, stop being this conspiratorial. The prison is famously incompetent. You know what? I don't believe it. No, I'm sorry. Oops. Most consequential prisoner in America, in the world, arguably, at that time, with the ability to implicate hundreds of incredibly powerful people. Just like, oops. The fact that he was even put in there, I'm pretty sure that generally speaking, when ultra-powerful people get put in jail, like, more accommodations are made. Like if Donald Trump was kept in jail, and like wasn't let out on bail or like for an arrest or something, do you really think they would orange jumpsuit him and put him in the general pop? Like, no, that's ridiculous. Yeah, I don't know. This is really it. People really going to apply Hanlon's razor to the most powerful and evil people in the world. I unironically think. Now, I actually think that Hanlon's razor is like a brain dead 0 IQ way of analyze. I think that it's like a low IQ crutch that people use to avoid critical thinking sometimes. Man, This is what I deal with when people assume that Republicans are all just conveniently wrong on every issue ever and believe all the most evil things possible, and like everything they say about trans people is internally contradictory and incredibly hateful, and it's like, oh dude, they're just like misguided, they don't think they're lying or whatever. It's like, no, like, come on, stop. Like, it's the idea that it's never malice and always stupidity is like, okay, well then what the f is like the FBI? Then what is like COINTELPRO? Like, you like, imagine if all the documents about COINTELPRO never released. Even before they were all released, people still had a pretty strong idea what was going on there. Like, it's like, oh yeah, the Chicago police like accidentally shot everyone 5 million times. Like, no, I don't think that applies. And I think that applies less the higher like the power and the money involved is, right? Stupidity being the factor like over malice works a lot in interpersonal relationships because most people don't act maliciously when interacting with like other normal people. But when it comes to high level politics shit, like do you, like with Putin, like don't attribute to malice what can be adequately explained by stupid. Oh, oh yeah, Putin just like sincerely believed that NATO was poised to invade him through Ukraine. No, he's lying. He knows he's lying. The Kremlin knows he's lying. They all know. We deal with alt-righters lying all the time. The government lies. Everyone lies. I think that Hanlon's razor works when dealing interpersonally with other people on like a normal level. If a friend doesn't make it to your event because they slept in, attribute that to stupidity, not malice. If your friend doesn't respond to your texts or says something casually inconsiderate, assume it was them having a brain fuck up rather than them being like out to get you. But when it comes to stuff like this, I don't buy it. I do think Hanlon's razor is a good thing to believe when it comes to interpersonal stuff. You mean Occam's razor? No, Occam's razor is that the simplest solution is probably the correct one. Hanlon's razor is that you shouldn't attribute to malice what can be explained as easily by stupidity. We'll get into Alden's razor eventually. Can it be stupidity and malice? Take stupidity for granted. There's always stupidity. There's often also malice.